Hello friends, Tanya here for Trinity Stamps, and today I am going to do an interactive card. We're doing an open and slide card, and we're going to use the Ray Bows dies. Now I die cut this from 7 colors of cardstock because that's how many stripes there are in this Ray Bows die set. And I am going to assemble one of these sets for you. Now, one of the tips that I'm going to give you is you can make multiples with this method because you have multiple elements that you can combine together in a different bunch of rainbows. Now, you could do this in any kind of cardstock you would like to do it in. I just happen to have a whole bunch of glitter cardstock, and why not use it on a rainbow? So I've completed one rainbow here, and I went ahead and assembled all seven of them. Now I used a bunch of scraps of just copy paper from my scrap bin to adhere these down. I wanted something very lightweight that wouldn't add much heft because glitter cardstock is hefty as it is. Then I went ahead and assembled all of them. And another tip I'm going to give you, if you're working with glitter cardstock, lay a piece of scrap cardstock down over the glitter cardstock when you're pushing it down onto the cardstock. Otherwise, you're sanding your fingers. Oh my gosh. Now, I did show you the dimensions of this 5x7 card. This is a 5 by 7.5 inch piece of cardstock that I scored at a 1/2 inch across the top. And that's going to be the inside piece that's going to slide. Now I've glued our rainbow below that score line, and we're going to trim off the excess because we don't want the rest of that showing through, but we needed a sturdy base for this to rest on to slide up and down. Now if I'd been thinking ahead, I would have adhered these directly to that panel, and then I wouldn't have to glue it on after the fact. However, that is our slider piece. And then we have the front of the card. This is going to be a 5x7 card, and it is 5 by 7.5. That other piece was, I think it was 4 1/4 by 6.5 or something like that. I did write it on a Post-it note at the beginning of this video, so if you want to go back, you can see that. I took one of the modern embossed A7 stack dies here, and this looks to be like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th from the largest. And I die cut that frame out of the front of the card. Now I'm going to take that flap that I had created, and I'm going to adhere it to the back of the card. Now I moved it around a few different ways trying to figure out the best way to line this up, and I decided to just lay it on the table and get those edges butted up and then fold it over and glue it. I'm going to crease really well with my bone folder here. And next, to cover up that seam, I did cut out one of these cloud borders. These are a stitched cloud border, and I did a whole bunch of them while I was at it because we're going to need several layers of the cloud when I put this together completely. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier in the video, but this card was totally inspired by the amazing Jennifer McGuire. She has a video from over a year ago where she does this open and slide card, and it happens to be a rainbow on that one also, but this one is a little easier. I adhere the rainbow to the top of the inside of the card. Now this is on the card front part, not on the card back part. And now I am going to mark where the rainbow ends when you open the card. You don't want your slider part to be uncovered beyond that spot because you don't want it to slip out of its mooring, so to speak. So we're going to create a little channel for this rainbow to slide in and out of, and I'm going to cut double layers of cardstock to create this channel because it needs a little room in order to be able to move. I start out with these thin pieces that I've doubled, and now I'm going to take some more layers of clouds and adhere those together and cover those tick marks that I've made with my pencil. Now, if I make sure that all of those pencil marks are covered, I know that it will keep my rainbow in the slider component or the covered slider component, and I won't have any troubles there. So now I'm going to fill out the rest of the lower portion of the inside of the card so that it has a nice even height for me to put the clouds on top of. Now when I glue the clouds on, I'm just going to glue over those extra pieces of cardstock that I've adhered to the inside of the card. And I'll again make sure my tick marks or my pencil marks are completely covered. I let that sit under a heavyweight block for just a couple of minutes for that glue to set, and here I'm testing our rainbow slider piece to make sure it slides in and out easily. I trim off the extra with my guillotine trimmer. You could use your long bladed scissors to do the same. I just thought it might be faster to use my guillotine trimmer. It might not have been, but it worked. Now I'm going to start layering some more of these cloud border layers on the front of our card, and I'm going to have 2 layers on the top and a couple of layers on the bottom. I adhered one of these layers, and you want to make sure that none of that cloud is going to adhere to the inside of the card. So be careful when you're applying your glue. I'm going to add another piece on the top here, making sure it lines up with the top edge of our card so it isn't hanging over the back of the card. Next, I'll take a section of clouds and adhere that to the bottom of our card. And you can see the cloud border from the inside peeking through that window at the front of the card. I trim off the excess cloud layers and test out our slider mechanism a few times, and I just am so thrilled with how good this is turning out. Next, I'm pulling out the Pot of Gold stamp and die set. It's got this amazing pot of gold with a little leprechaun and some fun charm-shaped balloons floating above his head. I did stamp that with some Hero Arts Intense Black ink, and I used my heat tool to set that so it doesn't smear when I start coloring it with my Copic colors. I am using some T colors here. I think this is T7, T5, and T3. That's a toner gray to color that pot. And I blend that through in the middle, and because I needed a little more color variation in the center, I just took some streaks across that. I decided to make him a redhead, and what I generally do for a red hair tone is take a creamy brown, golden yellow, and a reddish orange to create the beard color. I could have gone with this beard color, but that is very ginger. So I decided to come back through with a darker brown and go over that whole color. I did, I think it was E07, E35 for the brown, and YR24, I think, for the yellow. Again, don't get hung up on which exact colors I use. I want you to go to your alcohol markers, whatever brand they are, and just start pulling colors out. Playing with them is how you're going to learn your best color combos. I'm going to stick with the same toner grays for the other gray and black parts of this image. And I'm sticking with the yellow tones, same yellow tones for the card, and all of the green tones. I'm going to color in our shamrock balloon and our our clover balloon and our 4-leaf clover or shamrock on his hat with the same greens. The horseshoe is going to get gold tones. The hat and his pants are going to be tan colored, kind of like Carhartt colors. I didn't want those to be green. I wanted this little worker dude to not necessarily look like a leprechaun. And I didn't want too much green. I'm using the E07 for the red on there, and I did not like that. So I did come back with a red color. I think it's like R29, maybe R27, something like that. And now I'm going to stamp the image again over the top of our previously colored image just to sharpen up and darken the outline. I think that really makes a difference in your finished product. Next, we're going to take the coordinating die and we're going to die cut our colored image, and we're going to die cut a couple of spares. Now I want to cover up the back of this image for sure, because it's going to be able to be seen on the inside of our card. I also want some extra stability behind this cardstock, so I do a double layer that goes on top of the card, and then we'll use that third layer to sandwich it on the other side of the card. Now I'm being careful of where I place my glue. I only need it on a little bit of the rainbow, the horseshoe, and the right side, and a little bit of the bottom. Now, just to make sure I don't glue that to the inside of the card, I put a piece of scrap cardstock inside the card while I adhered this down. Now I got my dirty fingers on my cloud, so I try to erase that with a pencil eraser. That helps, but then I come back with my sanding block and I sand away that imperfection. So if you are a messy stamper like me, those are a couple tips for getting rid of the oopsies when you are crafting, because who wants to start over? And sometimes embellishments aren't really going to hide your oopsie. We've got our little leprechaun all, oh, there I come with the sanding block. We've got him all layered onto the front of the card. Now we just need to do a sentiment. This is the Simply Sentimental Lucky Stamp and Die Set. And it has a lot of great sentiments in it, as all of the Simply Sentimental line do. If you are looking for some great sentiments, stamp sets and die sets, these are winners. I'm telling you, check out that Simply Sentimental line. I die cut the shadow layer for Lucky, this particular font of Lucky, in black, and I layered it with 2 layers to make it nice and sturdy. It is again going to be going over that window, so we need it to have a little stability. I die cut the detail letters with some gold foil cardstock, and I'm adhering those onto our black shadow. And you'll see me struggle a little bit with where I think this needs to go. Oops, upside down. Try again. Now with the gold foil cardstock that I'm using, it's foiled on both sides of this cardstock, so you need to be a little careful about giving that enough time for that glue to dry, because this is a non-porous surface that you're gluing to a porous surface. You can see my C decided to jump off of my shadow layer, and I had to put it back. Our last letter is this U, and that did come together very quickly. I have sped this up, but it's only double time. Next, we're going to take our sub-sentiments, and we're going to use the scraps from the black cardstock die cut layers, and I'm going to stamp those with some Shark White hybrid ink from Atelier Ink on 3. I have been seeing other people use white pigment ink or hybrid inks to do their white heat embossing, so that it shows white through even if your embossing isn't perfect. And actually you can see where you're stamping also. I did hit that cardstock with my anti-static powder tool, which is just a sock with some cornstarch. And I am sprinkling this with some white embossing powder, and I'm trying to get rid of any stray bits. This is the difficult part of embossing on black cardstock, especially if you're using white embossing powder. There are some stray bits, and that can cause not the crisp, clean look I'm looking for. So I heat set this, and then I do end up going back with a craft knife. This is an X-Acto knife, and just using the tip to scrape away any stray bits of embossing powder that were on my piece of cardstock. You do not have to be this particular. This is just my perfectionism kicking in, and sometimes we need to resist that, but I couldn't today. Next, I'm taking the Simply Sentimental U die set and using that banner to die cut our sub-sentiments. And now it's time to adhere these to the front of our card. Now I did a test fit with this, and I only need glue on the outer portions of the L and the Y. So I'll adhere those to the front of the card. It's going to adhere to that kettle, and the frame. And for the I'm so part of the I'm so lucky, I just need it under the I'm part. Next, we're going to put our little message on the bottom of the rainbow. You can see I have the card completely open here. I did use some of the double-sided tape there in addition to the liquid glue. We need both here because glitter cardstock is a little bit tricky to adhere things to. So I wanted instant stick and I wanted good hold. And I was test fitting this, and the fishtails were catching. So I trimmed those off. You can see that you can pull your rainbow out of the bottom and then tuck it back in if you're very careful. Couple test runs on that, and you can see this turned out so fun. I am loving this design. I may have to do this again soon. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you will give this interactive card idea a try. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, check that description box below for all of the products that I used today, and here are a couple more videos I thought you might enjoy. Don't forget to leave me a comment. Bye-bye.